Coming off of Dalek War, Season 10 is 4 for 4, but can it get a perfect score? Well, it's time to find out as I revisit one of my first ever classic Doctor Who stories. This is The Green Death. To get a better insight on my journey with classic Doctor Who, I recommend watching the first couple of minutes of my Tomb of the Cybermen review just for a quick refresh. Basically, in high school, I went along to this group called the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, where they sat and watched old episodes of Doctor Who in their lunch break, and that was my introduction to the show. And while the Tomb of the Cybermen was my first Doctor Who, The Green Death was my second, or third. I can't remember if we watched this one or Pyramids of Mars first. I always remember this one as being a goofy in a charming way story about an invasion of big grubs, or maggots, should I say. I remember an explosion, and I remember the ending, which is much more than I can say about Pyramids of Mars. However, revisiting it for this review, I was met with a much smarter script and a really well put together story. Seriously, this has an excellent environmental message that isn't preachy like some 90s action movie. No, this is actually based in real climate science. There are messages here that were relevant at the time and are still relevant in today's times, and yet we humans still haven't learned from our mistakes. Fungus, people! Protein-enriched fungus! Ay, ay, ay. The gist of the story is as follows. Miss Jo Grant wants to take a trip to Wales to help a young professor put a stop to some harmful mining operation, or something like that. And of course, this bloke has literally won a Nobel Peace Prize, and still people disregard him and his team as a bunch of tree-hugging nutjobs. Absolutely mad. Seriously, why are people so opposed to change? This came out in 1973. This is 50 years old, and we're still having the same problem today. Fungus! So, the big bad corporation has to be stopped from putting into effect this new energy source that would be detrimental to the environment and, You know, I know I just finished praising it, but I can't actually remember how the big bad corporation correlates to giant poisonous maggots. I'm going to take an educated guess and say they were mutated by waste pollution. Also, it's all been run by B.O.S.S. That's B.O.S.S. An AI learning computer with a very posh British accent. Don't ask. Along the way, we get some more excellent acting, particularly from Katie Manning, a brilliant script with some iconic lines that I would love to share with you, but YouTube would come along and copyright claim this video before I have a chance to even say. But take my word for it, there are some great lines in this one. Man, it's just a good time all around. We've got espionage with an undercover Captain Yates. We've got the Doctor going stealth mode in various disguises. We've got plenty of Venusian Aikido, a love at first sight blossoming romance between Jo and the Professor, and even the good old 10 rounds rapid fire. This must have been where I got a lot of my Third Doctor era impressions from, what with the whole action man karate going full James Bond, which I'm pretty sure is what Andrew Bowman said in one of my comment sections before, is that this was kind of like the BBC's way of doing like a James Bond-esque character for the small screen. And of course, good old Brigadier, 5 rounds rapid. I really thought he used that more in the classic series, but it's only been 2 or 3 times so far. Also, as always, plenty of sonic screwdriver action, Bessie gets involved, some great costume design. Pretty much all the Doctor's best bits are in this one, except for reversing the polarity of the neutron flow. That was missed. We almost got away without embarrassment, but then old Captain Yates has to go full TikTok teenager and start pulling a series of stupid faces when getting unbrainwashed. Oh, and the flying thing. The less said about that, the better. Heck, somebody on set even cared about continuity so much to go as far as to leave a partially eaten apple on a table after a long scene that began with apples for breakfast. Apples and fungus, man, it's the future. Now for the elephant in the room. Yes, the maggots look silly. Yes, you can see them shuffling along on rails like an Island of Sodor playset in some shots, but honestly, when you're in the zone of classic Doctor Who, these things just become charming. They're part of the fun to watch. But out of context, they're probably hilariously unthreatening, and of course that's how I first saw them as a 14-year-old newcomer. Also, gonna go on a bit of a tangent here. When I was sitting with that small group of nerds, spending our lunchtimes in a classroom watching classic Doctor Who episodes, there was this one scene that I referenced earlier where a building exploded. Excellent practical effect, by the way. Well, at this high school, there was a teacher that everybody universally loved, and he was a very large man. And he would own it too, like he would constantly make jokes about his weight and stuff. So much so that he even got a burger named after him in the school canteen. The Dooley Burger. Also known as a heart attack on a bun. An American would probably eat it as a light snack. Well, when that building exploded, I called out like the hilarious comedian I was at that age. And that, my friends, is a perfect example of what happens when Mr. Doolin eats a Dooley Burger. And the whole class erupted with laughter because, haha, fat jokes! Forgive my teenage self, it was 2010 after all. Someone even went so far as to get up, walk across the room and give me a massive high five. At last, validation in a group of nerds who I would soon join. I guess I never grew out of it. Actually, fun fact for you, the person that gave me that high five that day, their name was Cameron Dickens, and they are actually the one person that likes my post every time I share one of these reviews to Facebook. I don't even know if he watches these videos, but if you do, Cameron, I really appreciate your support, man. Anyway, back to the Green Death. The resolution comes a little bit too easy, but to be fair, at least it wasn't an out-of-nowhere Deus Ex Machina and was actually something that had been developed in the story prior. And it's a bittersweet ending as well, with Jo finding true love in the span of less than a week. Kind of like Elemental. Speaking of recently released movies that will date this video poorly, this has better special effects than the Flash movie. Personally, I think Jo deserved better than some eccentric, self-righteous, condescending a-hole that spent most of the story being a right prick to her, but I mean, to each their own, right? But getting back on topic, Jo Grant says goodbye to the Doctor in a really well-directed scene filled with quiet contemplation. It really is a great scene, and it's probably the best companion departure so far, tied with Susan, or maybe Ben and Polly. Making up for the lack of farewell to Liz, I see. A beautiful, melancholic ending to a perfect season. Season 10 is easily my favourite classic Doctor Who season so far, followed closely by Season 6. A few of you in the comments recently have been telling me that I'm heading into the golden age of Doctor Who, and you guys are bang on the money, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you for sticking with me for 69 reviews. I guess that 14-year-old sense of humour never really left me. Tune in next time for Season 11, the third Doctor's final season, and the introduction of Sarah Jane Smith. There's a lot to look forward to, so I'll catch you next time.